Good morning or good afternoon. My name is Mike Albu. I look after the Beam Exchange, which is a platform for sharing information, knowledge, experiences, ideas, successes and failures about programs that use a market systems development approach. And today I'm very privileged to have three speakers from an organization called MEDA, and they're going to be talking about the role of smart incentives in MSD. So we have Omoneka Oyier, Senior Technical Director for MEDA. We also have Jonathan. I don't even know how to pronounce your name, Jonathan. I'm so sorry. I won't try it. Yelevielbayire. We also have Zakaria Issahaku. Apologies for mangling your names, guys. Jonathan is the Value Chain Manager and Technical Lead for Grow2, and Zakaria is the Business Value Creation Lead for MEDA's programs across West and Central Africa. So I'm going to stop talking now because I think you probably want to listen to these people instead of me. But like I say, if you have questions for the speakers, please put them in the Q&A box at any time. When they've spoken for about 30 minutes, we're going to have a Q&A session for another 30 minutes. So there's a chance to really interrogate these speakers about their experiences. But otherwise, very happy to hand over to you, Omoneka.
Thank you, Mike. I hope you can all hear me well. It's really a pleasure to be here. I've been on the other side as an audience member, listening to other speakers. So it's really a privilege and an honor to be able to share our experience with you all today. So thanks for joining us. As Mike said, I'm the Senior Director for Technical Areas at MEDA. I am based in Toronto. So most of the work that I do is working with individuals like Jonathan and Zach to ensure that our technical competencies are aligned with best practice, to draw out lessons from our technical areas, one of which is inclusive market systems. I'll let Jonathan also introduce himself and Zach, and then we'll go through the presentation.
Okay.
Jonathan, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Jonathan Yelevielbayire. So I'm the value chain manager and the technical lead. I'm based in Ghana, specifically in northern part of Ghana, Tamale. I support the Grow2 project to develop, to design interventions and also implement. So I'm excited to be part of this conversation. Thank you.
Yes, so good afternoon. I'm Dr. Zakaria Issahaku. As Omoneka mentioned, I'm the Business Value Creation Lead for West and Central Africa. I work out of Ghana and providing technical lead in terms of the design of our programs across West and Central Africa. As said by my other panelists, it's a privilege to be sharing our experiences on this platform, and we look forward to sharing our experience with everybody. Thank you.
Great, so let's get started. I hope you can see my screen. So the title of our session today is The Role of Smart Incentives in Enhancing Agribusiness Growth. Before we get to discussing the incentives program in Northern Ghana, we're going to take a few minutes just to walk you through, first of all, who's MEDA and what is it that we do? Secondly, what do we mean by incentives? So we're going to talk a little bit about the role of incentives. Zach is going to take us through that. And then Jonathan will share more about the experience that we've had with what we call smart incentives in Northern Ghana. So let me kick off by just giving a brief overview of MEDA for those who are not familiar with our organization. MEDA stands for Mennonite Economic Development Associates. It's a Canadian nonprofit or international economic development organization that has global operations in Africa, in Asia, and in Latin America and the Caribbean. We were established in 1953 by a group of Mennonite investors, so hence the name. And a lot of the work that we do is in agri-food systems, particularly focusing on helping to transform the agri-food system and focusing particularly on women and youth. And since 2020, MEDA has been focusing on decent jobs, so that's a key metric of ours. And so we have created or supported over 230,000 decent work or job opportunities in the agri-food space. And also, please, you will have access to the slides, so please don't worry. I know there's quite a bit of text, but you will get access to the slides and the recording later, so you can go through this in a bit more detail if you'd like. And then in terms of our approach to agri-food systems transformation, we call it Program Plus. And at MEDA, we find that, the language or the terms that we use are quite important. They denote some sort of purpose or intention. So we spend quite a bit of time thinking about, how is it that we phrase things or term things, which is why we call, and Zach is going to share a bit more about, why we call what we do smart incentives in terms of the incentives program we're going to share about later. But our approach to agri-food systems transformation is called Program Plus. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but at the core is really, if you look at the little circle there, is really around how do we create decent jobs in agri-food systems, particularly for women and youth. And then we design programs that really try to address challenges across different aspects of the agri-food system. So whether it's in aggregation, processing, distribution, retail and trade, or production. And then finally, there are certain elements that we recognize or certain actors that we recognize are not necessarily part of the program, but they play a very important role in scaling up the market effects of the program. So these might be in terms of policymakers, financial actors, technology providers, infrastructure providers. So then we really think about how do we bring them into or how do we leverage the infrastructure or the policies that are available to scale up the impact that we're seeing. So that's really the Program Plus approach. In a nutshell, it will not be unfamiliar to you, but that's what we call it at MEDA. All right, so now that you have a sense of who we are, I'm going to pass over to Zach to share more about incentives.
Yes, so good afternoon, good morning once again. Yes, and thanks to Omoneka for the background of what we do. So at the heart of what we do in MEDA is what we call the smart incentives. I guess many others in the MSD space will be asking about or talking about the name, the smart. Of course, they've been different usage of the terminologies, but in our context, it's been a revolution of trying to distinguish it from, in terms of the terminologies, from what we all used to call within the market system space, matching grant, matching awards, and even to some extent subsidies. But basically to drum home the message about the import of incentives. We noticed that those connotations also affected the intentionality of how smart incentives were run. And so we decided to coin it. And at the center of it is about promoting market interactions among the key stakeholders within the MSD networks of actors. So having said that, smart incentives, as we call them, are actually meant to be able to drive behavioral change by addressing some of the barriers that affects the interwoven actors within the market space. And as we all agree, the market system space comprises of many actors within the space acting together, sometimes even in parallel. And the non-interaction actually is affecting the sustainability and impact at scale of some of the interventions that we implement. And so the smart incentives are expected to change that desire so that people can behave more economically, so that there's market interaction among the players. They could be lead firms, SMEs, cooperatives, and many others. They could be within the agribusiness, agri-food systems. And so just to highlight the point that smart incentives are expected to be strategically administered so that at the end of the day, we're able to reduce the risk, either perceived or real risk, that confront actors within the agri-food space. And it's important to make the point that smart incentives, as they are expected to be, and as facilitators, MEDA, smart incentives are supposed to be short-term driven, because the mechanisms are expected to stimulate interactions within a short period, and then you don't have to, they are not expected to be prolonged. And also at the heart of it is what I talked about, reducing market barriers. And so they are supposed to ensure that they are market driven and link up with the actors within the market space, so that at the end of the day, in terms of sustainability, the key actors within the space can continue to work. And so at the end of the day, we expect that when smart incentives are implemented, it rather stimulates the market to work together rather than distorting it. Because when markets are distorted, then the expected development within the space is also compromised. And so we want to highlight that our smart incentives are not supposed to be long-term. They are supposed to provide services or fees, or they are not supposed to provide products or services for free. And that's at the heart of it, because in the past, many of the programs that were implemented by development intervention programs has been around what we can describe as welfare cases, where handouts are given and without market interaction. So smart incentives are expected to motivate all the actors to be able to work together in a win-win situation rather than giving freebies. The last point I also want to emphasize is the fact that at the end of the day, if smart incentives does not allow the key actors to work together economically in a win-win situation, then we will not be achieving the objectives of it. So just to highlight those key points before we move on to the next point, Omo. Yes, so what has been our track record as an organization? We've done this for, for the past 70 years. We can say that over the period, we had over 70 million in terms of total incentives, $70 million in terms of smart incentives that have been provided. Important to highlight the fact also that it's been contribution from both MEDA Smart Incentive Fund and also from the partner, either from the private sector or even from the clients, in this case, the lead firms, the farmers, the cooperatives, and all of that. And we've done this in over 30 countries, involving around over 600 recipients. And so that has given us some leverage in terms of what we see as those smart incentives that are working, those that needs refinement and all of that. And the Grow 2 project is just one few example of those smart incentives that we have implemented throughout our intervention countries. So just the last slide before I pass it on to Jonathan, to highlight the point that smart incentives, when well implemented, encourages the private sector to invest in agri-food systems. We have private sector technology providers who have technologies, who have products, who have services, but are constrained because they have limited knowledge of the client, particularly those in the rural areas, farmers, farmer cooperatives. But when smart incentives are rolled out, that creates, that facilitates demand creation. You see private sector investing so heavily in the market. And when they do that, they directly address the issues of market failures. Market failure because you have the product, the services that are not reaching the areas that are most needed, particularly in the rural areas where farmers need the services but they are also unable to access those products and technologies. And so when we create smart incentives that bring people together, they're able to address market failures. And that leads out to sustainable solutions, particularly within the agri-food systems, access to seed, access to technologies, access to fertilizers, access to equipment. Once the interaction is kick-started and they're able to work together, they continue to work together to provide those services. And so it provides lasting solutions. The last point is also about the fact that smart incentive through its implementation creates an enabling environment for contextualized solutions where the farmer, the lead firm, the cooperatives, together with the private sector, to finding local solutions to some of the challenges that confront them within the agricultural space. So it's important highlighting that it's not just a top-down approach, but the platform that is provided through the smart incentive administration allows for people to interact and find a solution to some of the market challenges that confront them. So I'll pass it on to my colleague Jonathan to share with us how these smart incentives have been deployed in Group 2 and how that have led to systemic changes. Over to you, Jonathan.
Yeah, okay, so thank you very much, Doug and Zach and Omo. And good afternoon, good morning, good evening to everyone across the globe. Yes, so I'll just start with an overview of the project. As you can see, the project is a 5-year project and it's been implemented by MEDA and then also funded by the Global First Canada. We target to reach about 40,000 women smallholder farmers. As we speak, we have exceeded this target. And so we're also expected to affect 5,000 women entrepreneurs. We've also exceeded that target in terms of trainings and other capacity building and technical assistance support. We've also been able to work with agribusinesses, 50 of them, about 50 of them being women, more than 50 of them being women-led agribusinesses in northern Ghana. And so these businesses, we work with them in various categories, whether they are into production, they are into aggregation or outgrower scheme, or they are also into processing, local fabrication, input supplies, and all that. These are the different categories of businesses that the project is working with. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. All right. Thank you. So I'm going to talk about two different incentives that smart incentives that MEDA deployed. They are what we call innovation fund through a delivery mechanism we call price discount for technologies, and then also matching grants, which target the agribusinesses. So I'll start with the Innovation Fund. So the Innovation Fund, it was conceived, it's actually target the women smallholder farmers, the 40,000, that's the basket of the 40,000 that are indicated, 9,000 of them were targeted under the Innovation Fund. This fund was delivered through what we call direct price discount mechanism. And the process started with identifying market actors that were willing to adapt their business model to be able to get to the last mile to be able to promote these technologies. And so we're looking out for technology suppliers that had the willingness, that has the capacity and motivation to be able to extend their services. And so targeting women smallholder farmers, the average incentive innovation fund was 67,000 Canadian dollars average for women smallholder farmers. And the idea for the innovation fund was to address market barriers, as mentioned earlier on. And some of these market barriers under the innovation fund, when we did the diagnostics, we identified that technologies such as certified seed for groundnut and soybean, there were a lot of perception around the usage. And so women smallholder farmers and other farmers within the communities, about less than 4% of them were not using certified seed or were not even familiar with it. And therefore, it was a social norms within such communities to utilize such. Again, some technologies such as inoculant were not familiar to the women smallholder farmers. Some of them have heard about it, but they have never seen it. They have never utilized it. The cost of some of the technologies were also high. For example, a push planter that is meant to address labor intensiveness. It's a seeder that helps to do planting of, that. Then also when it comes to processing, some of the women processors were using, they were not using the right technology, and therefore issues of contamination was also very high in the products that they turn out. Again, high-ticket equipment such as shellers, groundnut pot strippers were all technologies that women were not familiar. At the same time, the cost was also very high. And therefore, the project has to step in with the Innovation Fund to be able to buy down the risks and to stimulate demand as indicated. And therefore, the major target was early adopters and early majority within the market system for both groundnut and soybean. And so we targeted early adopters, women that are willing to invest 50% of the total value of their preferred technology. But then it was the private sector players that led the process and then led through Innovation Fairs. They organized that to demonstrate Innovation Fairs as well as demonstration farms that they utilize to demonstrate the value and benefit of the technologies. So Ninoculan, certified seed, and even the push planters were all demonstrated through these fairs. And that encouraged most of the women who are willing to take the risk to pay 50% of the total value of the technologies. And so that was done for the Innovation Fund. And women that were not able to raise their match were able to connect them with financial institutions for them to raise funding to be able to pay their match and all that. When it came to the matching grant also, our major focus was to support the agribusinesses, improve upon their internal operations, and also improve equipment upgrade. And so systemic issues such as low quality of soybeans and groundnut were all turned out, and rejection rates were all very high. And therefore, also women were not able to raise their capital to purchase equipment such as tractors. And tractors are also very expensive. And so women-led agribusinesses could not raise that much to be able to do that, because there was no collateral to be able to support them to raise those funding. So as a result of that, we had to deploy the matching grant together with other technologies that were not also available in the system to be able to ensure that women smallholder farmers have access to these technologies. And so, as you can see from the slides, in total, the project for these 10 agribusinesses, we've been able to deploy about 150,000 United States dollars in terms of the incentives. Out of that, we have 60,000 plus that went into matching grants, and then also 9,000 plus went into the direct price discount. Next slide, please. In terms of the reported effects across most of the businesses, a lot of impact have been made. When you start with the processes, for example, have been able to increase production volumes. From the slides, you can see that businesses such as SMG has been able to increase production volumes of soybean from 120 metric tons to 230 metric tons as a result of the project facilitation. As a result of our work, they have been able to reach out to the last mile, be able to engage with smallholder farmers, get them on board, and a lot of them have adopted the use of soybean certified seed as well as groundnut. And that has also affected the increased volume of production at the business level. Sales turnover have also increased for the business from 600,000 cedis to 1.5 million cedis as well. Next slide. Again, there were some lessons, experiences that have been shared. Previously, Sulosuhundo Enterprise, as you can see from the slide, they were resorting to general mills to be able to mill their products, and that exposed them to a lot of contaminations. They were not able to access, other markets, high-valued market to be able to sell their products. As a result of our partnership, we have been able to facilitate the production and supply of stainless steel processing machine. And she's very excited about the support, and the issue of contamination has also been addressed, and she confidently can be able to push the product into other markets. Slide. In terms of market linkages, the project has also been able to connect these processes and market actors to market. We've been able to do backward integration to connect the women smallholder farmers to these agribusinesses to serve as either suppliers of raw materials or also access inputs and services from the agribusinesses that we work with. So for example, there is also, for example, Dimboni Farmgate has also been able to link up with a strategic partner called Yara. And Yara Legume was a legume-specific fertilizer, is what we call Yara Legume. This was a technology that women were resistant, and they were not also familiar with it. But as a result of the incentive, Dimboni Farmgate has been able to get a deal with Yara Legume, and they're able to sell to the smallholder farmers to support productivity enhancement. That also applies to SMV. As a result of the Innovation Fund, they are able to increase their reach from 1,000+ women smallholder farmers to 3,000 women smallholder farmers as we speak with certified seed. They are also working with some of them as a result of integration to produce certified seed and make it available and accessible to their colleague women who are interested in these products and services. Other processes such as Pognar Foods has also been able to link up with major off-takers. We've been able to connect processes in particular, about 30 of them, to a digital marketing platform called One Africa. And One Africa is an international platform that they're engaging with trading their businesses across the globe. Next slide. In terms of employment, as we speak more generally about close to 51 businesses have employed about 345 employees. And for the 10 businesses that we interviewed, the full-time height is about 27, and 76% of them are women. And so there is also a gradual shift towards women because they believe that women employee are trustworthy and they're able to do their work with diligence and all that. Yes, so hiring, as at the last time we did the survey, hiring is ongoing, and we believe that if we conduct another survey today, we'll get additional businesses that have hired as a result of the support that we have provided to the businesses. And most of the technologies that we provide are environmentally friendly. For instance, those that were doing processing were using fuel wood to do their roasting. As a result of our support, they have switched to much more environmentally sustainable technologies using electric supported machines to do their production as well. Next slide. In terms of lessons learned, we believe that targeting the right businesses is key. And so we're able to target the right businesses with the right incentives, willing to move out of their comfort zone, as most of the technology suppliers were within the first mile. And we were able to convince them as a result of the value proposition that we promoted to them. They were able to extend their services beyond the first mile to the last mile. Training support was also good because all the incentives that we provided, we facilitated training by business development service providers to support them so that they are able to utilize the technologies that they receive in the right way and then in the right form for their own benefits. Alignment with social goals, like I indicated, a lot of the businesses are interested in recruiting more women because they are more dedicated, they are available, and they put in their best as compared to their male counterparts. And also the incentives have also created market opportunities, new markets. They have extended into new geographies. Both agribusinesses and technology suppliers have reached out to new geographies, and they are driving sales and income levels. In terms of what didn't work, we have issues with delay in verification of our match, because once the farmer pays their match to the technology service provider, our IKM knowledge management department will have to do verification before MEDA pays X match. And so that process, we have learned to reduce that process, and then also keep it simple in terms of the contracts, as well as resolving our payment issues. Next slide. In terms of the scaling up strategies, we believe that a lot of the technology service providers, a number of them have actually set out to, independently of the project, open outlets. And they have opened these outlets and have recruited women sales agents who they are working with, and then also providing services to their colleague women. We have piloted what we call the last mile model. As a result of the pilot, they have also added their own recruitment. Before the partnership, they were supplying inputs in piecemeal, but as a result of our collaboration, we encouraged them to bundle their inputs, and they have realized that bundling their input has reduced their cost, their operational cost, by as much as 30%. And that has also encouraged a lot of them to crowd in to be able to bundle their products and services. We have also done what we call facilitated crowding in, where we have been able to share lessons, proof of concepts with other businesses of the same, products and services. And we have a number of them that are also taking elements of the innovations that we have promoted. Embedded finance, high-ticket equipment like tractors, we've been able to support through our matching grant. The women are able to raise their own match. We're able to get the down payment, and the equipment is released to the agribusiness to be able to go into production. And for 1 year, they are able to pay back. We have a lot of success stories within that area to be able to share under the incentives. Thank you. Next slide. Yeah, thank you.
Great. So we're going to go to questions soon. We just wanted to let you know that there is a longer publication where you can get more information on this particular project and the incentives, how they were used by different types of businesses. And as I said, you will receive this presentation, but we can also perhaps put these links in the chat later. So you can access it both on the Beam Exchange website and the MEDA website. And finally, if you'd like to connect with us some more, please feel free to scan the QR code. I'm going to leave it up for a few minutes, and you can interact with us through these various channels. We also have a monthly newsletter, which you're welcome to subscribe to as well. All right, thank you very much. I'll hand over to you, Mike, now.
Thank you very much, Omoneka. And Jonathan and Zakaria, great presentations. There's lots of questions now. I think something, Jonathan, that slide you had about the wider systemic changes, I think for me was really interesting. And I'd love to come back to that. But let's start with a few more slightly more technical questions that people have been raising. So let's say, for example, there's a very simple question, straightforward question actually, from Mallory Schillinger about what kind, a particular focus on the type of seeds that you were promoting through these discount schemes. Were they, I think someone's already said they were certified seeds. Were they self-propagating or sterile seeds?
Yeah, so let me guess. So the project is working on 2 value chains, soybean and groundnuts, peanut, and these seeds are produced by certified seed producers in the country. So there's a regulatory mechanism supporting the production of seed in the country, and the seed is supposed to be regulated by PPRSD, Plant Regulatory and Protection Directorate, and the seeds are then supplied by the seed producers to the farmers. So They are, as you know, these are not hybrids. These are close pollinated seeds, but they require that they are planted. You buy them from the producers yearly to be able to plant. So if you buy the granules or the soybean seed from the seed producer and you farm, what you turn out becomes green, and then the coming year you have to get back to buy the seed to farm. So that's how it works. It's not for multi seasons. So every season you have to get back because of the quality control mechanisms. Because when you are doing the seed, you are expected to ensure purity, you are expected to ensure that it's uniform and all and many other standards that you are expected to control. Once the farmer takes them to the farm, those standards are not regulated, so the farmer cannot continue to use them as though they are seed. The end buyer will not get the uniform seed that they are expecting to have. Thank you.
Thank you. There was also a couple of questions from Richard Tinsley about tractors. Actually, he said he really appreciated the picture in one of the slides. Can you elaborate a bit more about the access to tractors to contract mechanization and what the impact of tractor or mechanization was on smallholder communities in terms of things like the timing of crop establishment, increases in yields, amount of produce available for sale up the value chain, and other things like that. So yeah, can you just elaborate on the whole mechanization question?
Yes, I'll start. I will let Jonathan come in to address specific issues. So, as we all agree, access to mechanization is a big challenge in the sense that availability and affordability are issues. Smallholder farmers want to access tractors, particularly young people and women. They are unable to access these tractors at the time that they need them. One is that even when they are available, how to assess them becomes a challenge. So what we do is to have mechanization service providers who have an online deployment platform that allows the farmers to be able to register and be able to access those machineries. But we through this project deploy those type of mechanisms to be able to address access to mechanization issues. So, Jonathan, having said this, if you can speak directly on the Bonnie, how the Bonnie was supported and others to access tractor services and how that is helping the smallholder farmer to access the services. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think during the diagnostics, like Zach mentioned, we have the tractor to farmer ratio was very, very wide. In northern Ghana was 1:2,000 farmers. Upper West region was 1:1,000 smallholder farmers. And so access to it was a key challenge. And therefore, we had to step in with a matching award. Now, the women-led agribusiness, what the women smallholder farmers need is access. And so we had to work with Dimboni Farms, for example, and others, about 4 others, to be able to look at, okay, are the technology service providers willing to accept down payment of, say, maybe $10,000? And so the business will work with the project to be able to raise the down payment. And so that down payment is then given to the technology supplier, who then agrees through a contract, a sales, now has a payment arrangement contract with Dimboni, for example, to be able to say every quarter you go into plowing or threshing of soya bean to be able to do the repayment. And so those arrangements were done, and the technologies supplier has a tracker. So that tracker monitors the performance of how it works. And so the idea was that at the end of the day, the technology service provider has to appreciate how the agribusiness is utilizing the tracker to be able to raise the funding to be able to pay back. And so that was very successful. Less than a year, the payment was done, and then the ownership was transferred to the agribusiness. And as we speak now, a lot of women smallholder farmers that are under our project are receiving plowing services from the Mbone farms, from Eduse, from others that have also benefited from this support. And we've seen that this is an area that is more attractive to the market actors, and they are willing to expand it to cover more of the women-led agribusinesses who have the interest in going with this model. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Jonathan. That's really helpful. Just looking through, there was also a question which was actually, Zakaria, you typed an answer already, but I think it would be interesting for people to hear what you were saying. So Patrick Berassa from Cordaid in Rwanda said, how did you ensure the fair selection of the agribusinesses? What were the criteria you consider, given you only work with quite a small number of businesses?
Over to you, Jonathan. How are they selected?
Yes, so so we had cut out a selection criteria. First of all, you must be operating in the geography, the project area of influence, Northern, Savannah, and Upper West. You must also be operating in the value chains that we are targeting. Either you are providing input services to farmers in that specific area, or you are a processor, you are adding your value addition, you are using groundnut or soybean as raw materials to be able to go into processing. Quite apart from that, we are also looking out for the interest, the willingness, and the capacity of them to co-invest, because the matching award is designed as a form of co-investment, either in kind payment or cash payment from the agribusinesses. Once you are able to demonstrate that, and then you also demonstrate that you are going to do backward integration, get more women smallholder farmers provided with the services that we need, either plowing or threshing services, then you are good to go. So, but the key thing is that your ability to raise the match, to be able to invest, your ability to, be an entrepreneur, because some of them come looking out for handouts. I remember we had a lot of discussions as a result of our due diligence. We had to take out a lot of them because they were interested in handouts. At the end of the day, we asked them to do their own contribution first before MEDA can also do their own payment as a result of after verification. So these were some of the key things that we're looking out for in our selection process. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. So look, there's quite an interesting question from Robert Barocchi about whether you thought about the incentives directed towards public sector governing entities, to encourage them to promote market, what he calls market conducive behaviors. Can you respond to that question? Did you engage with public sector entities, institutions in any way?
Okay.
Okay. So, yes. So the part of the issue about smart incentive is about ensuring that the pilots that are implemented are scalable and having much bigger impact. And working with the public sector in particular is very key in addressing that. So in implementing the smart incentives, we will deliberately reach out to the sectorial public sector institutions that regulate that. So for example, we've been working with GSL, a mechanism or a unit under the Ministry of Finance in Ghana that is looking at de-risking agricultural investments, and that sort of provides some enabling environment for the private sector to invest in, knowing that if there are challenges along the way, the public sector will intervene to addressing them. Similar is also working with the crop insurance, because these are crop-based products, also working with crop insurance institutions, so that if there are weather not favorable and all of that, then those mechanisms can then also come into support. We've also been working also with the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, particularly the WEAD, Women in Agricultural Development, to ensuring that the issues, some of the policy issues that are affecting the women are being addressed. So to highlight the point that if when you are implementing smart incentive, it is essential that we also engage public sector institutions so that the solutions that are being provided can be scaled across the landscape, particularly if you look at seed. The seed sector, particularly, even though it's privatized, is deregulated and many private sector institutions can enter. The production of breeder and foundation seed still sits within the public sector institutions who do the research. And so bring them all on board so that you enhance their capacity so that they're able to meet the demands of the farmers, and the private sector seed company is key. And we've been intervening at all levels in this regard.
Great.
Thank you.
Can we go back to that slide that I was inspired by, the one that showed the wider system changes?
Sorry, Mike, your question again?
Yeah, no, first of all, I want to just go back to the slide that was showing the system changes.
Okay.
So yeah, this slide I thought was
Okay.
for me is really important. So let's go to a question from Jennifer King about the Innovation Fund intervention. What changes have you seen so far in the market from non-project partner companies that are related to changing how they sell to women or see women as customers and decision makers?
Yes, yes. So with in terms of crowding in, yes, with Inoculant, for example, there's an Accra and Kumasi-based inoculant service provider. When we started the project, they were not really so much interested in working with us because they were looking out for probably a handout. But then we're able to work with Demeter Ghana Limited and then Green EF to be able to do the pilot. And I think that part of, they got the sense that we're really creating a lot of market for Demeter and Green EF. And they themselves, they crowded in to also, retail the product and services with the farmers at the community level. Apart from the inoculant, we've also promoted the cedar by Crop Doctor Limited in Northern Ghana and others. And then we have another company that I think a number of companies have also come into the space to also promote similar products, almost the same product, that cedar that we are promoting. And for me, that is a good thing because that has also created competition among the actors, and for them to relook at their pricing such that farmers don't rely on one or two service providers for these technologies. And so that is good for us as a project to encourage competition, and we'll continue to promote through our facilitated crowding in workshops, sharing lessons to be able to bring more of the similar private sector players to also be able to work and encourage so that it can favor the smallholder farmer moving forward. Thank you.
That's great. I'm gonna go slightly unconventional here. I wanna make allow Kristin O'Planek, who's asked a really interesting question, to speak and actually just put it in her own voice, if that's okay, Kristin.
Sure. Hi, everyone.
You're here. Great. Introduce yourself quickly as well.
Yeah, no, I was really interested. Kristin O'Planek, former USAID, in the embedded finance finding on this slide, because a couple years ago, we did an ex post evaluation of some of our interventions in Northern Ghana and found that one of the things that did not hold after the close of the activity was the financing. Once the subsidy went away, the financing arrangements that we were supporting ceased, unlike a lot of the other things that we helped incentivize, which did continue. And so it seemed like the barriers to finance were much harder. So I'm really interested to see that you're seeing signs of this systemic change. And I'm wondering, do you have plans after the partnership ends to kind of follow what happens and see if the availability of that financing continues once the subsidy is gone, which would be really valuable learning given our own findings that what we did at the time didn't stick. So thank
Yeah, if I may address that, Kristen. So yeah, I think we're not waiting until after the program ends, because this is a learning that's come from our teams in Ghana, but also from other projects where we have tried different financing models. For instance, providing guarantees to banks or microfinance institutions to then on lend to the small businesses that we're working with. We've had mixed success with that. And what we're seeing in Ghana is that, you know, because the subsidy incentives are one-off, right? So we're not giving them another match or another incentive this year. They received it last year, it was one-off. So the idea is that they have already established that relationship, and they've already demonstrated that they can repay using the embedded finance with the lease to own model. And so we expect to see that going forward. But what we've discussed as a team is how can we sort of scale this up? We feel that it has legs, it shows promise. So we are going to engage in some study to understand, you know, what are the elements that seem to be successful in what environments and what conditions, and see how we can design support around that to ensure that whenever we have our incentive programs, you know, we're also sort of ensuring that the embedded finance aspects are being built in. So definitely on our radar, and we're not going to wait until it ends. We're actually hoping to see this happen way before the project ends.
Yeah, so if I'm allowed to add, just to
Sure,
add a quick one on. Thank you, Omoneka. So what the project is also doing is that, links to finance is that what we are doing is to get impact investors because most of the businesses are not investor ready, and so we have a program that we're working with transaction advisors. And we're helping them to put in place the investment readiness materials like pitch deck, business plans, and all that. And we also done matchmaking as part of, ensuring that as we leave, we will have them interfacing with, financial service providers, including those that will provide embedded finance in the form of input credits to the smallholder farmers, and then also the other clients. And so that's what we have been able to do. And as I speak now, we have a lot of investor interest drawing towards about 7 of these businesses, and some of them, at least 1 or 2 of them, are in serious discussion to break a deal of up to $1 million, dollars. But we are interested in this because that is a sustainability measure for us as a project that we can leave behind and be able to scale up in an event of any other support. Thank you.
Thank you. By the way, the evaluation, the ex-post evaluation that Kristen was just referring to is available on the Beam Exchange, and there's a link in the chat just now from Isabel if you want to go and have a look at that study. Great, this has been a really fascinating conversation. I have a final question. We might be able to fit 1 or 2 more in, but we'll have a nearly final question from Richard again about what, if anything, has been the impact of the new tariffs from the USA on Ghana and on the work that you're doing.
Yes, thanks for the question. Yes, there've been tariffs imposition about 10% on Ghana's export to the US. It just kicked in. I'm not sure we have adequate data to be able to support its impact immediately. But what we've noticed is actually the local economic dynamics and impact within the agricultural space. There've been massive economic recovery from last year in terms of our macroeconomy, and that has impacted our full import bill. The city has gained has recovered within the past 3-4 months, and yeah, that has affected import of food and export to the country. But in terms of the tariffs, it's been limited to some specific commodities. That does not include the soybean and granules that the project is working on.
Okay, thank you. So look,
Thank you.
before we close, I would like to ask everyone to give their feedback on this webinar. I hope you've enjoyed it. We have a little form. There's a link in the chat box posted a couple of minutes ago by Isabel. It only takes you 30 seconds to fill it in, but it would really help us and help the speakers to know what you thought about this event. But otherwise, Zachary, there was a question right at the beginning which I didn't ask you, which I thought was a great question. Someone posted it in the registration list, and maybe you can respond to that. It was from Philip Okafor, and he said, "Can you give us an example of an unsmart incentive, and how could it be remedied? If you've seen something that you thought was not good, perhaps you can even tell us how you think it could have been done better."
Yeah, so maybe let me just take a small bite on that. And thanks to the questioner, yes, there have been several instances of smart incentives that have been implemented, and with the benefit of the hindsight, you think that things could have done better. And the space within which we work, there is continuous learning and improvement over a period. So over the period, there have been some smart incentives that we thought could have been better implemented. So for example, I share an example on mechanization services, where farmers need mechanization services, and you would provide direct support to the farmers in terms of cash to be able to access the mechanization services, not directly on this project, but past projects where that could allow the farmers to be able to access the services. But of course, that does not promote the type of interaction that is needed for much bigger impact within the market system space. So that you are unable to tell what sort of interaction has taken place, how are the tractor service providers interacting with the farmers, and how can we leverage on that for many other farmers to benefit from. So over the period, based on those learnings, we've improved the way smart incentives are implemented across our programs in Africa.
Great. All right.
Yes.
On that note, thank you very much, Zach. Thank you very much, Omoneka and Jonathan. It's been a really interesting webinar.